So here's something interesting. I just got back from Switzerland, and let me tell you, that country has a dirty little secret that many Africans have wondered about for some time now, and some have known for a very long time. Look, the country is rich, but why is it so rich? And what does African and even South African money that is stolen or illegally repatriated by despots, corporate companies, and wealthy elites, and even autocratic leaders have to do with all this? Well, we'll get to that, but we need to start with the context first. Switzerland is one of the wealthiest countries in the world, with residents enjoying the highest average wealth per adult. Then the question is, how is this possible for a small mountainous country with no access to a sea or one that has so few resources? According to the 2022 Credit Suisse Global Wealth Report, the Swiss are comfortably the wealthiest population in the world when measuring the average level of wealth per person, $696,000. This was in 2021. When this is looked at in median terms, one half of the population has less than $168,000 in wealth, while the other better off half has wealth in excess of this figure. Using this parameter, Switzerland is the sixth wealthiest nation by citizen. Now, during World War II, as a neutral country, Switzerland, a country now of 8.7 million inhabitants, was allowed to trade with both sides during the war. The reality was that Switzerland lacked resources for raw materials, which made it dependent on neighboring Germany and Italy to provide these materials and other necessities such as food. Oh, there was also the issue of them storing Nazi gold. But yeah. Industrialization was also key in this. After the country's unification through the financial constitution, Switzerland saw the need to connect the different economic hubs of the country. It achieved that by industrializing and also creating stable, sturdy railways. And then there was political stability. A recent study researched the business areas that boosted Switzerland's competitiveness in international markets. And political stability came up as one of the most critical factors. The country's direct democracy and neutrality policy have spared it from internal conflicts and external wars. Inheritance is also another interesting thing about Switzerland. In 2015, around 63 billion francs or 1.2 trillion rands worth of inheritance was inherited by residents in Switzerland. Swiss inheritance laws are actually different, and heirship is something that they don't take into consideration. This means that the relatives cannot be excluded from a person's inheritance even through a will of last testament. So because of this, at least half of a deceased person's wealth has to go to his or her partner, while the remaining half, at least 75% of it, has to go to the children or the grandchildren of the deceased. This inheritance law enables people to be lifted off and out of poverty through the inheritance of cash from family members. And also because of this, it does not allow disproportionate wealth distribution amongst close family members. I thought that this was really interesting, and that's why a lot of people have a lot of money. But again, other than chocolate, the Swiss are also known for a little thing called banking and finance. Now, the roots of the modern Swiss banking institution are based on the banks that were created in the early 19th century to finance major construction projects across the country. One of these banks was Kreditanstalt Bank, created by a railway baron, Alfred Escher. The bank was later rebranded as Credit Suisse and became one of the largest investment banks in the world. And that was just the one. Now, as the banking industry evolved, because of their inherent neutrality, the Swiss chose secrecy as one of their unique banking propositions, and a lot of people bought in. And that's where the African story starts here. With the banking secrecy laws and favorable financial environment, Switzerland became the perfect place for African leaders and corrupt corporates and politicians to stash their cash in. For a long time, Switzerland was considered a safe haven for ill-gotten gains of many dictators, not least because of its banking secrecy. In recent years, they've been trying to become a leader in fighting dirty money because honestly, their reputation was starting to sour and they couldn't take that to the bank. According to the World Bank estimates, billions of dollars disappeared via the pockets of corrupt government officials in developing countries every year. And as one of the biggest offshore financial centers in the world, Switzerland used to be a great hiding place for illicit funds. However, knowing that such a reputation would harm its image, the Swiss government introduced its first laws against illicit assets in 1986. Since then, Switzerland has taken a leading role in the freezing and restitution of such funds that are connected to them. Nevertheless, the past keeps on catching up with Switzerland. There are, however, key examples of how in the past the Swiss have helped stash African money to their benefit and to the detriment of African citizens. Let's take, for instance, in 1997, Mobutu Sese Seko and the DRC, formerly Zaire. Mobutu Sese Seko was president of the DRC, which was formerly known as Zaire at the time, from 1965 to 1997. This dude lined his pockets with money from the trade of copper, cobalt, diamonds, and gold. While Zaire was suffering from famine and diseases and other things, the dictator was chartering supersonic airliners like the Concorde to go shopping in Paris, and he bought himself a lot of properties around the world, including a mansion in Switzerland. And in 1997, when Mobutu died, the opposition in Zaire requested that Switzerland should provide legal assistance and also block all of his assets. When the opposition leader declared himself president of Zaire, Switzerland froze the funds of Mobutu and his family. The new government failed, however, to initiate legal proceedings over Mobutu's ill-gotten gains, and in 2009, Switzerland was forced to unfreeze the money as the statute of limitation had run out. That money flew into the wind or into the arms and the bank accounts of another family. From Zaire, or currently DRC, let's go to African giants Nigeria. Let's look at the story of Sani Abacha, who ruled Nigeria with an iron fist from 1993 to 1998. Estimates vary, but Abacha and his entourage are thought to have taken $1 to $5 billion from Nigeria's oil revenues out of the country. Some of that money ended up in Swiss bank accounts. And in 1998, when Abacha died unexpectedly at the age of 54, Switzerland had to reimburse Nigeria over $700 million, the highest amount in the world ever when it came to asset recovery. It's 2011 and we've got to go to the Ivory Coast. Laurent Gbagbo was president of the Ivory Coast for 10 years, and in 2010, during the presidential elections, he refused to concede defeat to the winner. This sparked riots and violence, during which more than 300 people were killed. In 2011, Gbagbo was arrested. Switzerland froze assets worth over 70 million francs belonging to the former president and his entourage. Ivory Coast extradited Gbagbo to the ICC in The Hague, which wanted him for alleged crimes against humanity. However, the ICC acquitted him in a surprise 2019 verdict. It has not been established whether his assets were illicit or not. We don't know. More recently, a 2015 UN report confirmed that Africa loses around $50 billion each year in illicit outflows. That's around 1 trillion rands every single year, which usually comes from a range of legal and illegal corporate tactics, as well as corruption, bribery, and trafficking. The lost money is usually hidden and difficult to trace, especially in countries such as Switzerland that have strict financial secrecy laws. 2015 was also the year that the Swiss leaks dropped, and in those leaks, over 5,000 personal or corporate clients linked to 50 countries in Africa held billions of dollars with HSBC private bank Suisse. Through these Swiss leaks, it was concluded that $3.5 billion was held by Egyptians and $2 billion was held by South Africans. South Africans were at the time the bank's largest group of African-based clients, more than 1,700, while Cape Verde had just one. Egyptians held the highest total amount of money with the bank, and this included people like former finance minister Rashid Mohammed Rashid, who fled the country following the coup that ousted President Hosni Mubarak. The names included some of Africa's most notorious, including alleged arms traffickers in Burundi and Liberia, diamond traders mired in controversy from the CAR, lobbyists from corrupt arms dealers in Tanzania, and even South Africans. Do yourself a favor. Go and Google the Secrecy Commission and find a man in a blue suit who's testifying there. This list even included businessmen who were involved in two of Kenya's biggest corruption scandals, but they weren't even spared here. In some cases, HSBC private bank Suisse even kept on working with clients after their involvement was made public. The thing is that the wealthy people that pop up in these leaks, many of them are in the developing world. They're in Africa. And till this day, they can still hide their money virtually risk-free from the tax authorities of their home country by simply using offshore services of banks and other financial services that are offered in Switzerland. A case in point is Isabel dos Santos, the daughter of the former Angolan president, who, according to the Luanda Leaks revelations, allegedly siphoned hundreds of millions of dollars of Angolan public funds into offshore accounts, which included some bank accounts in Switzerland. And at the height of her powers, she was supposedly worth $2 billion. The truth is that, my dear Africans, knowing about something and being able to do something about it are two different things. But nonetheless, knowing in this case is very important. Switzerland says that it's now at the forefront of fighting these illegal flows of money out of the continent. But hey, the world still keeps spinning. Thank you for watching this video right up until this part. We hope it was just as interesting for you to watch as it was for us to make. Check out one of these other videos and hopefully they'll be just as interesting as this one. Cheers.